Hello and welcome to our Friday night show with the Lost Magics with myself, Sherry Brett, and my lovely co-host, Jana. So tonight we are doing part 2 of Count Dracula, but today we're going to be doing the information a bit more on him, his family, the way that he died. There are several ways for that. So we're going to be starting with my sister Jana first, then it will go on to me, guys. So we do hope that you enjoy the show. Hello to everybody in the room as well. We hope that you are okay. Lots of shout outs to all of our platforms, our sponsors and supporters. And we hope that you do enjoy. Right, over to you, Genesis.
Alrighty. Well, as you guys know, we were covering the topic of Dracula last week, and now we're going to cover some more of Dracula and his family, like Sherry had just said in her lovely introduction, as always. Sherry, can you hear me?
Yes, my darling, I can hear you. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
great. Yeah, I'm just getting a little reverb.
Yeah, no,
Okay. So Dracula, as he is known in pop culture, was a man named Vlad Tepes III of Wallachia. He was born between 1428 and 1431. He was the second of four brothers, which was Mircea the second, Vlad. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's like Caligurul and Radu Selfrumos. And now a little bit of history on the father of these boys and the future voivodes of Wallachia. The voivode, of course, as we discussed last week, is the ruler or the prince of Wallachia. And also a smidge of political background for you history buffs that are out there. Vlad II Dracul, aka he was also known as the Dragon. Now, this is the father of Dracula. That's the title that he received after joining the Order of the Dragon. It also means son of Dracula. And in Romanian, it is literally translated to mean the devil. How fitting for the legend of Dracula, right? And his family. A little bit of history on the Order of the Dragon is that it was a higher aristocracy in the monarchs. It was established in 1408 by Sigismund of Luxembourg. He was king of Hungary and Croatia in 1387 to 1437, and he was the Holy Roman Emperor in 1433 to 1437. The whole purpose of their sect, the Order of Dragons, was to defend the cross and basically Christianity and defend off any enemies that might be a part of that, especially the Ottoman and Turks, because they were of the Muslim religion or the Islamic religions. And so, of course, they were meant to defend against that. I had a few photos here of, sorry, what happened to my video? StreamYard, there you are. Okay, I have a few. I was going to show you a couple of pictures of their crests or whatever you want to call them. Share my screen here. Okay, can you see that, Sherry? Here we go.
I'm not seeing anything. I'm just waiting for it to come up.
All right.
StreamYard seems to be playing up a lot at the minute.
Yes, it is. Let me know if that came up at all.
Not seeing anything at the minute.
Okay, I think it's
here it
working
is.
now.
Right, hang on.
Here it
Active
goes.
stream.
All right, so these right here are some of the crests and things that were involved. As you can see, there's like a dragon here on his tail, and it has the cross inlaid here on the back. This is one of the crests that they have, and it's a replica reproduction. See the dragon eating its own tail. The actual crest that this represents is actually missing, and no one knows where it is. And this right here is the crest of Wallachia, or the House of Dracula. And this little picture here on the side, this is meant to be a rendering that was done of Vlad II, who was Dracula's father. So that's, a very brief little description of the history of like his dad and stuff. Let me stop sharing that. Okay. Sorry about the technical difficulty there. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. But to ensure his family's loyalty, the Ottoman Turks, Sultan Mehmed kept Vlad III, which is how you know Dracula. He was around 11 years old, and his youngest brother Radu, who was about 7 years old. They were kept in hostages at the court there in the Ottoman Empire, which of course they were raised like princes because they were nobility and they were meant to be rulers of Wallachia. The dad left them there in order to keep his loyalty. So at any time during their upbringing, they could have been murdered if their dad basically didn't behave himself. It was from 1442 to 1447. And upon his release from captivity, his father and his eldest brother, Mircea II of Wallachia, had been assassinated for a whole year. And this is when he was supposed to first go to attempt to rule over Wallachia as the voivode, which was 1448, of course. So this was just some little excerpts I found pertaining to where we go into the story of Radu, his youngest brother. It said, hearing of the death of the Wallachian prince, the Turkish emperor, which they are referring to as Mehmed, bestowed gifts upon his oldest son, money, horses, jewelry, tents as fit for a ruler, and sent him to Wallachia to rule instead of his father, under the condition that he would pay homage every year and pay tribute as his father had, and his brother was kept by Mehmed at his court as his favorite. Okay. This I don't know if anyone will ever know the full story of the little brother of Dracula, Radu, which is what I'm going to go into now after that brief little history of this blood-torn war between, basically like the Christians and the Muslims and this little town, Wallachia, right between Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. They were just always fighting over power. This little, they're basically the little guy. So his brother, Radu, is Cel Frumos, which means the beautiful. The Romanian translation of this word is actually was meant to be Prince Charming. It means Prince Charming. Fat Frumos, also beautiful infant or son. What you can find on the internet is labeled Dracula's gay traitor brother. He was literally sent to oppose Dracula's rule by Sultan Mehmed II, of whom he's basically grown up with. This is like a whole family of people, that Dracula grew up with and then was sent back away. And he's just, everyone's been murdered and he's messed up. He's trying to keep his lands and uphold what his father wanted upheld, was to keep the Islamic values out of, they're part of the Order of the Dragon. So the guy who this comes from, his name is Leonic. I am reading his name because it's really weird. Chalco Dalantals. He's the one that tells the story of the brother Radu. Okay. And it happened around 1451 to 1452. Okay. And this is an excerpt from a short article he had. The emperor had with him the brother of Vlad, son of Dracula, and his favorite living with him. And so it happened that when he began to rule, the emperor wanted to have a relation with this boy that almost killed him. Because he liked the boy, he invited him to parties and raised the cup with lust, asking him to come to his bedchamber. And the boy was taken by surprise to see the emperor rushing on him in such a thing, and stood against him and did not concede to the emperor's craving. But the emperor kissed him against his will, and the boy sheathed a dagger and cut the emperor's thigh and then ran away. The doctors healed the emperor's wound, and the boy climbed a tree nearby and stayed hidden. Only after the emperor felt the boy descended and walked away, and then came back to the court. And again, he was the emperor's favorite. So he hid up in a tree. He wouldn't come down until the emperor said hey, I forgive you. And everything's fine. It's okay. But he essentially, in some other accounts that I read of, because I tried to confirm everything I could, but it was really hard, especially with Google. Probably should have went to the library, but it seems like he tried to force himself on Radu. He was a little bit younger. I don't think he was too much younger than him, but it was just kind of, it's not really clear if he became in the end like his lover, as they would like to say, but like he probably may have. The sharp-tongued Romans nicknamed Radu the Handsome and ironically referred to his past as the Sultan's favorite. So like they picked at him and was talking crap to him. And then he eventually got married to a Serbian princess and had a daughter that married the ruler of Moldavia, Stephen the Great, who may have eventually beheaded Radu. That may be what happened to him. But you cannot refrain from the spectacle of what history would have been if Radu the Handsome had managed a deeper cut into Mehmed the Conqueror, because Constantinople probably would have had a chance against the Ottomans, because I know that it's not really known, but Mehmed was actually more vicious than Vlad was. Like I said, Vlad was the little man. And so I tried to find some photographs for you guys of Radu, and I'm going to pull those up now. I think I know how to do this without having any problems now. We'll just share the screen here, share the screen, and then entire screen. I'm not as good as Sherry is at this.
I'm not much greater, but I've been having a little bit more of a time to get used to it.
I'm guessing it's not sharing yet.
For some reason, StreamYards is really, really slow. And it keeps like cutting out and blinking. People are saying it in the room.
It could be paranormal.
Come on, we're witches. You should be coming through. You don't want to be zapped off, do you?
Well, I'll come back to the pictures of Radu when it
decides to come on.
So I'm going to go past these photographs of Radu that I have in a couple of the battle, and I'm going to talk some more about. So he's known as like a traitor because Vlad was trying to get on the throne, and be the Voivode of Wallachia. And, Radu, who knows his brother better than his brother? So he knows like all his tricks and things he might be thinking of. And you have to remember that they were raised as soldiers at the time. The Ottoman Empire had a really deep, just like a knowledge of war. They were just really good soldiers. They had really good infantry. They were, it was the empire, the Ottoman Empire. I mean, we're not hearing the Wallachian Empire. No, Wallachia was like a hole in the wall that some people was trying to rule over according to whoever had the most power. Who was ruling? The Ottomans. They wanted them to give them money. Said, hey, you guys are ours. We're protecting y'all, so you do what we say. And it it really wasn't good. The title of the Voivode of Wallachia passed through blood-spattered hands so many times, over years and years, and people were just killing themselves. But since I'm having to wait on these pictures, I'm going to go ahead and skip to my next, because I have some more photographs right here for you guys. But this is a little history on Mehmed, which no one ever really looks at, since they want to say Dracula was so evil and war-torn and stuff, okay? The Europeans were terrified of Mehmed II, okay? He ruled from 1451 to 1481, okay? He was born in 1432. So we'll say he was probably 10 years older than Radu, something around 10 years older than him, 8 to 10 years. So listen, the death of this guy, Mehmed II, the Sultan, okay? His baby brother, it's rumored, he was a baby, okay? And to prevent further, question of who goes on the throne there, he went ahead and had him drowned to death as a baby so that he can maintain his power. Fratricide, that's when, you kill your siblings or whatever. That was taught by his father. He said that any of my kids want to kill the other kids to get on the throne, that's what's going to happen. And he literally killed 19 brothers to make sure that he was the one to ascend to the throne there. Okay. He viewed himself as the continuation of the Roman Empire, like not as a ruler or like a part of it. It was like he was trying to embody it fully. He just is it. You know what I mean? And the Catholic Church really did not want the Islamic Muslims and stuff to be spreading throughout Europe, because the popularity of Christianity is what keeps the Catholic Church, in power. So they really didn't want them to even take over, and they were against them. And this guy Mehmed craved war, and he would invade, just trying to push further and further west. His ultimate goal was really to push all the way into Italy. I don't think he really fully, there is a lot of information on this rulings of these people. There are lots of different stories. Some of it, of course, has been embellished a little bit, of course, to tell a better story. But there's a lot of history here. I mean, you could do an hours and hours long documentary of the depth of the perception and the different roles of different things in these religions. But Mehmed was not he wasn't a happy-go-lucky guy or anything, okay? He literally went into Constantinople and he built a structure, this huge structure. It's like the first thing he did when he got there. And the name of it literally translated as throat-cutting castle or something like that, okay? And anybody that was coming through Constantinople right there through, I think it's the Straits of Gibraltar. She'll look this up, but I'm just going to go straight to Gibraltar. He blocked it up, and he wasn't going to let nobody come through there. Nobody was coming to trade or do anything. He sent out warnings to people don't come through here, because if you do, we're going to cut you out. Okay. He literally waited for a Venetian ship to come through there. They came through despite the warnings. They shot it down with cannons, because he had cannons. None of the other emperors before him had cannons or anything. And they shot down the ship, and it sank. And of course, the survivors, everybody that they got out, they were brutally beheaded. And then the captain of the ship was impaled and set out for all to see, on the straits. It's pretty nasty. And it's pretty terrible to me how they really try to paint Vlad the Third, Vlad Tepes, Dracula, as a bad guy, when he really was just defending his country. This guy's invading people. He starved people until they were eating rats and stuff, and they finally succumbed to doing what he wanted them to do. Hold on a second. Drop something on the floor. But anyways, it was very crazy. I mean, Vlad Dracula was captured during one of his reigns. He somehow lost, I don't know exactly how he lost the throne, but he went on for 14 years in this prison. Okay. They caught him, they was holding him hostage or whatever. And while he was in there, they created a manuscript called The Story of a Bloodthirsty Madman called Dracula of Wallachia. And this guy, he was one of the nobilities or whatever, Holy Roman Emperor Frederick III. He had it performed at a dinner party at his court, which I thought was pretty interesting. But that court of him playing that is sort of how Dracula came, just his reputation would precede him, as I said in the last one. And that's how Bram Stoker ended up being able to hear about all this cruelty of Dracula, which was known throughout Europe. But I mean, I guess they try to really romanticize him. This whole thing was just so sad, the way his brother, came. His brother was one of the guys who came to oppose him on the battlefield. And when he came to oppose him, I keep hearing my own voice come back at me, and I'm thinking you guys are hearing it too. So anyways, the brother was opposing him. And when the Sultan sent him there to take over, there was this huge battle at Tuscanova, I think it was called. It was this big, huge battle, and he had 20,000 Turks hung up, on being impaled. Some of them were dead, and some of them were dying. And his brother's the one who was like leading that whole charge. And I think it's called the Janissarian Guard. Is basically like the royal guard that he brought with him. Just that one faction of their guard alone was more men than all of Dracula's army. And they turned tail and fled. Like they just left, even though they could have took over everything. And the other thing about them being kidnapped in the Ottoman Empire is that they were literally impaling is something that the Ottomans do. And that's where he got it from. So who's really the evil one here? Mehmed kidnaps some kids and like molests them for 5 years. And then, they try to hide in there. He sends his brother over there. They're turning everybody against each other, and he's like, hide and wait, hide and wait. They took 150,000 soldiers, Radu did. And Vlad came out there and just slaughters everybody. Like,
I think there's evil in all of it, to be honest. I think
it's really, the whole thing's real sick. Yeah, they're killing their brothers to kill them all. But that's a lot of what I had. And I really wanted to share the photographs I have of these. There's a whole entire book series called what is it called? The Conqueror Saga. It's like 4 books long. And the whole series, it's 3 books long. The whole series is nothing but a concordance of the Emperor Mehmed and his concubine, who's Radu. I'm sure it's very fictionalized. Yes, it's fictionalized, I'm sure, but there are like pictures. There's 3 books long. Someone wrote this about them being lovers with each other. So if you want to check that out, I found it in Goodreads, but it's called The Conqueror's Saga.
Yeah, look that up, guys, because that does sound very interesting. And don't worry about the stream. The stream just seems to be doing that a lot at the moment with StreamYards. Every show that I've seen, there's like glitches and things going on.
Maybe the weather.
It might be the weather, because it's quite bad everywhere at the minute. So that was very interesting, sis. Very factual stuff. People was enjoying that very much. So
thank you, guys.
Do you want to try and put the pictures up again?
Yeah, I can try. I don't know why it's not letting me.
You might have to wait a couple of minutes for it to come through, guys. StreamYards is literally on a meltdown by the looks of it at the minute.
I'm still hearing us talking right now.
Maybe somebody's playing it downstairs or something. Is your husband there?
No, it's just the kids.
Right, okay. Well, then everyone in the stream saying that they're not hearing no sound issues. So I don't know. Hello, Facebook user. I don't know who that is. Let me go and see if I can see you. It's not in that one either. If you could just put your name so we know who you are. And you have to actually hit the StreamYards. Here it is. Here we go. Let's bring it up.
All right. Y'all ignore my little book report that I got going on here.
Just hit the StreamYards Facebook user and accept it, and it should bring your name up. Going over to Sis's pictures and that, she can explain what they are.
Okay. All right. So can you see those photos right there? This is Radu, or a rendering someone did of him. And you can see he's got blonde hair. And he's got a big table with a feast in front of him because, he was the king's favorite. He did rule Wallachia for like a very small amount of time. But like I said, Vlad's father and oldest brother were there and assassinated a year before he's released. This is another. There was a couple of these badges of all of the brothers. Like I said, there was 4. Vlad was the second born. This right here is the battle of, what the heck did I say it was called? Tungstivia, I think. And this was a battle that they were fighting where Radu was involved in this. And this is where when they were approaching to where Vlad was, they found this 20,000 people impaled, being left to be pecked to death by crows. And they left. They were like, hell no, got to go back to my boyfriend and tell him because we're not getting killed today. And so, this right here is some pictures I found of Mehmed. This one on the right was featured in the book I mentioned, The Conqueror's Saga. This is one. I thought it was so strange thinking about him being, a Muslim. Like Muslim Ottoman Empire. I was thinking, dark hair for some reason, but I guess he was like a fair-haired guy. He looks kind of like he had a red beard and everything. Of course, he was part of the Roman Empire, so I guess that would be why. Here are some of the drawings of Radu the handsome, or Radu the beautiful. You can see he's a beautiful woman with no breasts and a mustache. So, this one was very feminine. It makes me wonder is what did he really, really look like for them to really portray him as so. I mean, if that's supposed to be a guy, like, wow, just a really beautiful guy, you know?
Looks
Um,
very female, doesn't he?
yeah,
Very,
very, very feminine there. I was like, man, she's really
very
pretty.
pretty.
They didn't even put the mustache on that one. Of course, they all seem to have these really long mustaches. Um, I thought it was pretty interesting. And this right here is the book. The book's here. The first one's called And I Darken, Now I Rise, and Bright We Burn. I mean, and it looks like they really gave some time and effort to this. Like, this is like a real book. It's rated almost 4 stars. So, and it's got all these
Got
different,
to be a pretty good read then. If it's nearly
yeah, it probably
4
is.
stars almost.
Yeah, almost 5 stars for the whole series. So, I thought it was pretty interesting to learn about this. And if you do want to research any, I always encourage people to do their own research, no matter what I may say or, talk about or what I researched. But I think that there are, when people like research Dracula, of course, you're going to get Dracula. Sometimes you may hear about his unknown brother. But really, what you have to look at is there's a whole nother side of this story. There's an entire war that's going on in this whole country. I mean, where, Wallachia is what is presently known today as Romania. And it's still a
Yeah,
small, little, it's not a huge place. It's like a small place. And all the religious stuff that was going on back in the 1400s, like you just hear this sect that his dad hangs out with, called basically the Order of the Dragon. They're Dracula now. They're the son of the dragon. They want to keep everything that's not Christianity out. They want it
yeah,
all out. And it kind of fuels this. I mean, you can imagine if his dad, he loves his dad. He never got to see his dad because he was being held hostage. Well, you turn around and go back home. Of course, you're gonna do everything that your dad said. Dude, this right here is an excerpt from something that was like a saying or whatever from the Order of the Dragon. It was in company with the prelates, barons, and magnates of our own kingdom, who we invite to participate with us in this party by reason of the sign and effigy of our pure inclination and intention to crush the pernicious deeds of the same perfidious enemy and of followers of the ancient dragon, and, as one would expect, of the pagan knights, schismatics, and other nations of the Orthodox faith, and those envious of the cross of Christ and our kingdoms, and of this holy and saving religion of faith under the banner of the triumphant cross of Christ. Now that was something they said for the Order of the Dragon. And I'm thinking that Dracula just really took that to heart, and he would do anything to,
took that to heart.
to uphold what his dad wanted him to do. Like, he was his daddy's boy. He was like, Dad, a boy. He was impaling jokers and kill. To think that they left and he's this one guy with a small army is really, a feat in itself.
Hello, Chris. Literally coming to get you. Yep.
Catch me.
How are you all anyway? It's really good to see all of you in the room. Let's do a quick shout out before I start on my side. So my side is more about the man behind the man that's supposed to be known as being Dracula and the history and a bit about his death as well. It's quite a long pages. When I research, as you know, guys. So we've got Dragon, we've got Ghost Squad. We have got Nigel. Hello, everybody so far. We have Die Sweet. Who else? We've got Strangeland. Hello, welcome. Hanging with Mr. J, one of my others. Hello, welcome. I'm sure I saw Christina in here as well. Hello to Christina and everybody as well, guys. Christina, to anybody that is watching, obviously, Chris is Ghost Squad Scotland. So if you haven't gone and seen his channel about his castles and that, please go and have a look, guys. It is awesome. We have got, Christina. Hello, Christine, sweetheart. I hope you're okay. We've got lovely Chad and Linda from the Smith Family Paranormal. They should be on later, hopefully. They're out doing some interesting investigations this weekend as well. They've travelled away to do so. Hello to all of you in all of the platforms. We love you all and we do appreciate you all coming and watching and supporting us. So now we're going to go over to my part. Here it goes. So first we're going to start off with some facts about Vald Tepes. Okay. Vlad Tepes. Vlad was a voivode prince of Welchina, part of the modern Romania, surrounded by enemies that included the Hungarians, the Ottomans, his younger brother, and the Welchin nobility. Vlad explored extremely cruel measures to inspire fear into those who opposed him. He earned his nickname by impaling his enemies on stakes. That's one fact. Number two, what was Vlad the Emperor's childhood like? Vlad was a second son of Vlad II Dracula. When he was 11 years old, Vlad was sent to the court of the Ottoman Sultan Murad II as a hostage. His father and the elder brother were assassinated when he was 16, and Vlad spent the rest of his life fighting to claim his father's title. Fact number 3. How did Vlad the Impaler change the world? Vlad was the minor player during the early period of Ottoman domination of what is today Romania. He likely would have remained a historical curiosity known only to scholars of the region had it not been for Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. Stoker may have taken some inspiration from Vlad to create the archetypal vampire. The last one. How did Vlad the Impaler die? In 1476, Vlad was ambushed by an Ottoman patrol and killed. He was reportedly decapitated and his head was sent to the sultans in the Constantinople and the theory. Right. The history of Vlad Tepes. Vlad the Impaler, in full Vlad III Dracula of Romania. Vlad III Dracula, also called Vlad III of Romania. Vlad Tepes, born 1431, Sighisoara, Transylvania, now in Romania, died in 1476, north of present-day Bucharest, Romania. Worldwide military governor or prince of Welchina in 1448 and 1456 to 1462 to 1476, whose cruel methods of punishing his enemies gained notoriety in the 15th century Europe. Some in the scholarly community had suggested that Bram Stoker Dracula character was based on Vlad. Vlad was the second of the 4 brothers born into the noble family of Vlad II Dracula. His subsequent Dracula, meaning son of Dracula, was divided from the Latin Draco and dragon. After his father introduction into the Order of the Dragon created by the Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund for the defense of Christian Europe against the Ottoman Empire, Valid moved to Targafestai, Welchna, in 1436 when his father assumed leadership of the Welchna Volde Principality in 1442. Valid and his younger brother were sent to the court of Ottoman Sultan Murad II and collateral to assume this sultan that their father, in a reversal of his previous position, would support Ottoman's policies. Valid returned in 1448, having been informed of the assassination of his father and elder brother at the hands of the Welchman boyars noble the year before. Valid then embarked upon the first of the lifelong series of campaigns to regain his father's see. He optimed included the boyars as well as his younger brother, who was supported by the Ottoman Sultan. He emerged briefly victorious in 1448, but was disposed after only 2 months. After 8 years' struggle, Valid again claimed the Volode. Valid the Impla. It was during the period of the rule that he committed the outrages for when he was best known. His penchant for implying his enemies on stakes in the ground and leaving them to die earned him the name Valid the Impla, Roman Valid Tempest. He inflicted these types of torture on foreign and domestic enemies alike, notably as he retreated from battle in 1462. He left the field filled with thousands of implied victims at the deterrent to pursuing Ottoman's force. That year he escaped Ottoman, captured only to be intercepted by Hungarian forces and imprisoned by Matthias I of Hungary, whose assistance he had sought. Valid regained his seat in 1476, but was killed in battle the same year. He reminded a folk hero in the region of his effort against Ottoman encouragement. It often had been thought that Stoker based the title character of Dracula on Valid. Though Stoker's notes for the novel do include mentions of Dracula, the historical account from which the notes were taken mentions only the appellation, not the deeds for what its barrier was known. Some scholars have speculated that Stoker's conversations with a noted historian, Herman Bamberger, may have provided him with information on Valid's violent nature, though there is no concrete evidence to support the theory. Welchina, history, region, and Romania. Religion and Remain. Historical region and Romania. Welcher, also spelled Welcher Roman Tara and Romancia, Turkish Eflok, Principality of the Lower Danube River, which is which in 1859 joined Moldova to form the state of Romania. Its name is divided from that of the Valkyrs, who constituted the bulk of its implication. Welcher was bounded on the north and the northeast by the Transylvanian Alps, on the west, south, and east by the Danube River, and on the northeast by the Secret River. Traditionally, it is considered to have been founded in 1290 by Radu Negru and Black, a Voldide or military governor of. Excuse me a minute, guys. I'm having a problem with my laptop. It keeps turning on and off. Sort of military governor and Vagarus in southern Transylvania, the part of Hungary, who crossed the Transylvanian Alps and settled at Camp Perlung. The new principles were instantly demanded by Hungary, from whose federal domination and proselytism the Orthodox folks had fled. Basrab I reigned from 1330 to 52, defeated the Hungarian King Charles Robert in 1330 and secured Welchen independence. The new principality prepared from its rich architectural development and from the flow of trade passing through it between North Europe and the Black Sea. It faced danger from Hungary, which tried to restore its domination, as well as from the Ottoman Turks, who steadily extended their control over the Balkan Peninsula during the 14th century. By 1391, Prince Mereska the Old reigned from 1386 to 1418, was obliged to pay tribute to the Turks, and in 1417 he acknowledged Turkish suzerainty. Subsequently, Welcher was allowed to retain its own destiny, territory, and religion. It was, however, compelled to pay tribute and grant trade concessions to the Ottoman Empire to become a major supplier of the architectural goods to the Turks, to plan its foreign policy in accordance with Turkish policies, and to submit to the Sultan's choice of ruler, chosen from within the dynasty. Numerous princes continued Welcher's resistance to the Turks, e.g. Valid III. The emperor reigned from 1448 to 1456 to 62, and 1476 to 77, and Michael the Brave reigned from 1593 to 1601, who briefly united Welcher with Moldava and Transylvania, but increasingly Welcher submitted the Turkish domination after 1716. The Turks ceased to select Welcher as prince from among the native dynasty, and instead appointed
It appears we've lost Sherry. Sherry! I mean, I could, but I think I'm muted. I think I'm in the studio of mute. Can y'all hear me talking? Anybody? Can y'all hear me? Oh, great. Cool. Well, while we wait for Sherry to come back, does anybody have any questions about anything we're talking about in the show so far? I'll be happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability of my research and whatever. Do y'all think that Vlad may have had conflicted feelings for this family that he sort of like grew up with for a little bit, like a step family, and then he comes in to go take over his country, and then his brother is like basically just helping them try to fight him because he doesn't want to be a Muslim? Like, what do y'all think he has like mixed feelings about murdering them? Hey Sherry, I was trying to keep us entertained.
Yeah, no, it's the laptop. The laptop has been a complete and utter, I won't say the word.
A wanker.
Don't forget. It keeps going in and out. It's my charger, because my charger don't sit in my laptop properly for some reason. Every now and again, it decides to just like have a major breakdown and stop working, and then it'll start working again. But
I do that every week.
It's probably going to go out again, guys. I do apologize. Just bear with me, okay? Just try and keep the stream going, sis. If it's okay, right? Let's try and do this. According
I
to
thought
the
I was muted.
policies and to the submit to the Sultan's choice of ruler chosen from within the dynasty. Notoriously, Prince continued Welch's resistance to the Turks. I think I've done this bit. But increasingly, Welch submitted to the Turkish dominations after 1716, and the Turks ceased to select Welch's prince from among the native dynasty, and instead appointed an influential Panarot, i.e. a Greek administrator in the Ottoman service. Russian influence in Welch's increased during the 18th century, and in 1774, Russian asserted the right to intervene in its affairs through the continued to recolonize Turkish solidarity. During the 19th century, an uprising in Welchina, 1821, caused the Turks to end the unpopular Paris-Bourg regiment under Russian guidance, and variety of political reforms were undertaken, including the adoption in 1831 of a constitution that reglement QV. The Turks' trade monopoly was abandoned, providing lucrative opportunities for large landowners to deal with Western Europe while increasing the labour burden on Welch's peasants, who did not receive their full freedom until 1846. The European power ended Russia's protectorate after the Crimean War of 1856. Welch's ruling assembly, which was influenced by the growing movement of Roman nationalism, then voted in 1859 to unite with Welch's northeastern neighbour Moldavia under Prince Alexandru Lon Cuza, and to form the single state of Romania, which achieved its independence from the Turks in 1878. So then part 2, guys, I'm going into is the terrifying true story of Vlad the Impaler, the story of the real Dracula. Okay, so here we go.
Tarot cards.
And again, I am very sorry about some of my reading. Some of these words are very difficult to read out, but this is all wrote down and this will all be put
It's
out
right over there on the
on
bookshelf
pages
above the
with
radio.
the first
the
part
tarot
of the
cards.
Dracula Castle show that I had done. Okay. I didn't put that show up yet because we were going to be doing part 2. So I'm going to put both of them up this evening so you can read all of it. Responsibility for so obviously Vlad the Impaler was responsible for killing over 80,000 people and impaling 20,000. Vlad Dracula committed some of the historical grisliest acts of people and impaling 20,000. Vlad Dracula committed some of the historical grisliest acts as the ruler of the 15th century Welchna. In 1897, writer Bram Stoker published the novel Dracula, the classic story of a vampire named Count Dracula, who feeds on human blood, hunting his victims and killing them in the dead of night. The Count Dracula in the book, which contemporary critics describes as the most blood-curdling novel of the century, was Stoker's own creation, but many believe the bloodthirsty villain was partly inspired by Vlad the Impaler, the terrifying ruler of Welchna, part of present-day Romania in the mid-1400s. Though Vlad the Impaler is a national hero in Romania to this day, the real Dracula, portrayed untold sites throughout the mid-1400s. Vlad III earned his fearsome nickname for impaling more than 20,000 people and killing as many as 60,000 others during his bloody reign. He was even said to dine among his implied enemies and dipped his bread in their blood. But while the stories of the real Dracula have severely been blemished over the years, the true history of Vlad the Impaler is far scarier than anything Bram Stoker could have ever dreamed up. The son of the dragon is born. Some historians say that Vlad Tepes' body count reaches above 100,000 because the historical records is often spotty when it comes to the story of Vlad the Impaler, otherwise known as Vlad III. We know only that he was born between 1428 and 1431, during a time of unrest Welchner. His mother, the Queen, came from the Moldavian royal family, and his father was Valid III Dracula. The surname translates the dragon, and was given to Valid II after his induction into a Christian crusading order known as the Order of the Dragon. Young Valid had two brothers, Marecha and Radu. Due to the Welchner's proximity to the worrying factions of Christian-ruled Europe and the Muslim-ruled Ottoman Empire, Dracula's territory was the site of constant turmoil. In 1442, the Ottomans called for a diplomatic meeting and invited Valid Dracula. He saw an opportunity to educate his younger son in the art of diplomacy, so he brought Valid III and Radu with him. Valid II, Ottoman Sultan, and Mehmed II who kidnapped him and his children. But Dracula and his two sons were captured and held hostage by the Ottoman diplomats instead. The captors told him that he would be released, but he had to leave his sons. Dracula, believing it was the safest option for his family, agreed. Fortunately for Valid III and his brother, during their time as hostages, the two princes received lessons in science, philosophy, and the art of war. However, things were far worse back home. A coup orchestrated by local warlords known as the Boyer overthrew Dracula in 14. He was killed in the swamps behind his home, while his oldest son was tortured, blinded, and buried alive. Valid III was freed soon after his family's death, and at this time he began to use the name Valid Dracula, meaning son of the dragon. When he returned to Dracula, he transformed into a violent ruler, soon earning his moniker Valid in disturbing fashion. How Valid the Emperor took power and embraced brutality. A deception of Valid the Emperor meeting with envies.
Shut my door all the way when you leave.
Who captured him when he was young. In 1448, Valid returned to Welchner to take back the throne from Valid's slave.
Sit by the mama for me.
The man who had taken his father's place. He succeeded, but after just a few months, the despoiled Valid slave returned and took back the throne. But in 1456, Valid returned with an army and support from Hungary, and was able to take the throne from Vladislav for the second time. Legend has it that Valid personally beheaded his rival Vladislav on the battlefield, and once he was back on his father's throne again, he reigned of terror truly begun. Some historians believe his family's horrific deaths were what turned Valid III into Valid Tepes, the original Romanian for Valid the Emperor. Some accounts state Valid was subjected to beating and torturing during his imprisonment under the Ottomans, which may also be where he learned the tradition of implying enemies. Soon after he took the throne back, Valid had enemies of his own to deal with. Some in Welchner considered Vladislav II a better leader, which caused uprising in the villages across the region. The returning monarch knew he had to assert his dominance over the people, so he decided to host a banquet and invite his optionists. Valid Dracula's alleged cannibalistic feast among the rotten bodies of his impaled victims. It didn't take long before the festive festivities turned bloody. Valid dissenting guests were stabbed to death, and their still twitching bodies were employed on spikes. From there, Valid's violent reputation only continued to grow as he defended his throne and devastated his enemies time at time again via the grisliest methods imaginable. The real Dracula reigned region of terror. Word of Valid the Emperor brutally spared far and wide, and was depicted in many works of art throughout the Middle Ages. Valid the Emperor was an undeniably brutal ruler. Nevertheless, much of the Christian Europe supported his strong. If Matribury defense of Welchner from various
I'm here.
incursions from Muslim Ottoman forces, in fact, even Pope Pius II impressed administration for the notoriously violent ruler's military feats. A threat to Europe was deemed a threat to the Christian dome and therefore the Pope. Though the real Dracula brought some stability and protection to the vulnerable region, Valid III was still seemed to relish his own brutality during one of his successful campaigns against the Ottoman Turks in 1462. Valid wrote the following to one of his allies: I have killed peasants, men and women, old and young, who lived at Obl- Oblis- Oblisia and Navacello, where the Dambo flow into the sea. We killed 23-884 Turks without counting those whom were burned in home or Turks whose heads were cut by our soldiers. Though, though your highness, you must know that I have broke the peace. The Turks gave him the nickname Casual Bey, meaning implying prince. The atrocities committed by Valid the Emperor remain as terrifying today as they were more than
My boyfriend,
500
give me
years ago.
kisses.
Emplantment
Get out
was
there.
no
I don't
doubt
want to
Valid
be
the
your baby.
Emperor's murder method of choice. During
I'm done.
emplacement, a wooden or metal pole would be jabbed through the body, starting either in the rectum or the vagina, and would then slowly pierce through the body until it came out
Stop
the
that.
victim's
Sit
mouth,
still.
shoulders, or neck.
Look.
Sometimes the pole was round so that it could go through the body without puncturing any internal organs. Proclaiming the victim's torture in these particular gruesome cases, it could take hours or even days for the victim to finally die, often on public display for everyone to watch. In one case, he implied the Saxon merchants in
I said no.
Crostandon who were once allied with the Boyers, his family killers. Valid the Impler used these torturous methods to punish and kill anyone who displeased or threatened
You're
him
going to bed.
through, though it threatened him. Though it wasn't the only way he dispensed his cruelty at one point. He had the turbans of Ottoman's disciplinants nailed onto their skulls after they declined to remove them for religious
I'm in it
reasons.
soon. You're going to stop.
Romania's Bran
No,
Castle
sir.
is widely associated with Bran Stoker's book and Valley the
You ready to go
Third,
back downstairs?
though neither of these links have been confirmed by historians. Valley the Emperor
Hush. You don't
Valley
talk.
the Emperor's appetite for
You
violence
hush it
often
right now.
surpassed
Hush it.
the bloodlust of his enemies. Tolkien's
Get
Mohammed
down.
II,
Shut.
notorious for his own arching
Okay, you're not
tide
playing anymore.
against after seeing the decaying corpses of around 23,000 of his own men lined up on stakes for miles. Some say as many as 60 around the capital of Transkei, where he
Gavin, come see if he
invaded
wants to go with
Wales
you.
in 1462. How can we disposal of his estate, a man who is not afraid of defense, to defend it by such
You
means
want
as
Gavin?
these? Mohammed said, decided that anyone willing to go to such lengths to save his kingdom deserves to keep it. The Ottoman forces retreated the next day. Stories like this abound, and in total, Complementar's account claimed that Valid the Emperor killed more than 80,000 people during his reign, implying more than impelling more than 23,000 of them.
Gavin, I told you to
But
come get him.
it's difficult to know for sure how many people he truly slaughtered.
Come on, I gotta get Roman done.
His bloody reign ended in 1462 when Hungarian forces took him prisoner. The Ottomans had launched a campaign to replace Valid with his middle brother Radu. In turn, Valid went to Hungarians thinking that they'd help solidify his hold on the throne, but not wanting to risk war with the Ottomans, the Hungarians had Valid imprisoned. Almost nothing is known about Valid's imprisonment, but in 1476 he was released and married. Juzanta Siglegla, I don't even know what that. Juzenta, a relative of the Hungarian king Matthias Convius, who made an arrangement with Valid to restore him to his throne after Radu had been removed. However, Valid died in battle alongside the Hungarians, who were now at war with the Ottomans later that same year. According to the legend, he suffered the same ill fate as his old rival Vladislav II. As the story goes, Valid the Emperor was beheaded in battle and his head was parlayed back to Constantinople and placed into the hands of his enemy, Sultan Mehmed II, to be displayed over the city's gates. His remains have never been found. The organs of Bram Stoker's Dracula, widely known as the real Dracula, scholars disagree. about just how much Valid the Emperor inspired Bram Stoker's classical novel. Though Valid the Emperor associated are undeniably terrifying, how extreme exactly might the real Dracula have helped inspire Bram Stoker's fictional vampire? The answer might lie with glory, the gory tale of the bloodthirsty monarch exploit. According to one legend, valid Dracula enjoyed dipping his bread into the blood of his victims, but the authentic, authentic, oh my God, authenticity of the account has never been confirmed. In 1820, a book by the British consul to Welchner, William Wilkinson, titled An Account of the Principalities of Welcher and the Moldava, with various polit- political observations relating to them, also helped popularize the story of the real Dracula across Europe. Stoker's read Stoker read Wilkinson's book, which is likely where he first saw the name Dracula. Regardless of how much he was inspired by Wilkinson's, Stoker's Dracula took on a life of its own and continued to be one of the most adapted horror stories to this day. The first known motion picture to bring the vampire to the screen was in 1921. Hungarian producer Dracula's death 10 years later. The American producer starring Bela Lugosi became one of the most popular adaptations to date. Dozens upon dozens of movies, television shows, books, and the like have followed since, with Netflix 2020 series Dracula even transporting the centuries-old creature into a social media age at one point. Bela Luisi, in his iconic role as Count Dracula in the 1931 film adaptation, although Count Dracula and Valid the Emperor share a few similarities, they shared they they shared a name that both lived in the towering castle in Eastern Europe and had the taste for blood. There are significant differences between them. Stoker's Dracula resides in
Shannon, stop letting him cry.
and never lived there.
No one
He
hear
was
him
born
cry
in the
anymore. God bless you
he
now.
was born
That's another
in
cry
and
minute.
ruled over the
You want
region of
that whoop?
Welchner,
Get it
which
for
was
him.
once one of the three principalities that made up
You're not
Romania
listening to what he
and
needs.
at the time, including Transylvania and Moldava. And as terrifying as Valid the Emperor was, there's no hard evidence to suggest that he actually drank blood. However, 15th century prophets with the title like Frightening and Truly Extraordinary Stories of a Wicked Blood Drinking Tyrant called Prince Dracula certainly helped enforce the belief. So, clearly, tales of Valid the Emperor have been soaked in blood for over 500 years. And while it may be difficult to distinguish facts from fiction about the real Dracula at this point, there's enough evidence to know that Valid committed some of the most chilling, artistic, uh, auto- atrocities of his era. In other words, atrocities, some of the most dangerous and most gruesome murders of
Atrocities.
the times. Dangerous, very evil man to many, where with others, not so much, they looked up to him as being a hero and helping their countries and stuff. He most definitely, to a lot of people, would very much radiate with the vampire factors because he was apparently known to drink the blood of his victims, dip his bread into the victim's blood, the things that he done, and you can very much see why you would get the Count Dracula character brought out by the acts of this man that actually existed 500 years ago and done some very gruesome things, and still to this very day has not been forgotten and is still remembered, and films are still coming out about Count Dracula. The end. Wow, that was long, but I did tell you I like to do my research and get what I can. So I hope that you, hello, Midnight Paranormal, Princess Tiger Lily, that's my sis here. Pakja, hello, my darling. So I've had more people in. Again, I do apologise about the spelling and the reading and that. Some of the words you probably were like, what was she saying? But like I said, I have got this all down on paper that I wrote on the laptop. I've got part 1 as well. I didn't put that up yet because I wanted to get this side out the way as well. And I'm going to put both lots up so you guys can actually go over and read what I...
Do you want me to send you that stuff I wrote?
And yeah, if you could do that as well.
I typed up that whole thing. I basically did like a book report.
Yeah, well, everything that you got from part 1 and part 2, put it all together, send it over to me, and then I will put up what Sis has done also, and you can read that as well.
Okay.
So,
on part 1, I just was thinking I was remembering most of that. I wrote all this down.
Yeah, you can always go back over the shows and watch that, because you will hear what Sis said to that on part 1. But she has got part 2 stuff, so I will be putting that up alongside with the stuff that I put up tonight, guys. So you will be able to
miss stuff. If you miss a
over
lot, you miss some of what we talk about. You know, we may not have it written down. You gotta come
yeah,
to our
I write all of my stuff down. I always do, because of my spelling and things like reading and stuff like that. So yeah, you know, so you're gonna have a lot of facts and stuff that you can read up for yourselves, guys. It'll be on the Facebook pages, Bold and Bonkers page, my page, which is PWI the Strange and Unknown Streaming Network. Okay, so you can go and look at them there. Hi, Silent Wolf. Hello, Silent Wolf, as well. Didn't see you all there. Hello to everybody in all of the chats. We hope you did enjoy the show. It's been going for an hour and 18 minutes. So that was a really good show. We've got some really good stuff in there. That is the end of the Count Dracula story and Vlad Tempest, the player.
The third.
And
we'll just call him Trey.
Next week, we are going to be doing a very, very interesting creature that was actually asked to be done by Dragon. So we will be looking into your character and creature that you asked about last week in the show, my darling. We have been doing a little bit of research on that. The Gagoy. So you will most definitely have another interesting show. This is going to be a really good one as well, because it's a very interesting creature and that. So we will see what you think. So tune in again for us next Friday, 9 p.m. UK time, guys, to catch the next show of the Lost Magics. We hope that you have enjoyed it. I am going to play the video out again so that we've got that. And we hope that you've enjoyed, and we love you all. Lots of love, light and blessings. Thank you for coming in, and we will see you all very, very soon. And remember to stay spooky and watch out for the windows, so make sure the vampires don't come and get you. Love and blessings, guys. Night, night.